two people in a relationship cannot occupy the same place. And so when a man insists on being the adorer, he kind of robs the woman of the opportunity of being the adorer, which isn't really doing any one of them any favors.
So yeah, if you're in pair bond, you adore each other.
Yeah.
Think about all the love stories, all the movies portraying romantic love, that sense of falling in love. Anyone watching the screen would tell you they both adore each other.
Yeah.
What we're talking about here is basically a power struggle.
Yeah.
And there is no good outcome out of a power struggle.
Is it better for women to be adorers in relationships? That's the question we're looking to answer today. Now, this video is going to be a response to a video by Dr. Orion Taraban. I hope I've said that correctly. This video of his, it's titled, "It's Better for Women to Be Adorers, Understanding the Balance of Attraction." I've had a couple of my members send me this video and saying, WTF, have you got anything to say about this? What's this guy on about? Is he right? Is he wrong? So we wanted to give a response to his ideas. And I did want to start off by saying that I really respect Dr. Orion's perspective. I think he has some very interesting concepts to bring to the table and to the discussion. So this is not so much going to be an attack on Dr. Orion, so much as it is an opportunity for us to give our perspective, and one that we think is going to help women more, honestly.
I think ultimately, if the more perspectives we have, the greater number of solutions we can come up with in terms of solving these conflicts and problems that men and women typically have. So I think more perspectives equal better knowledge, better wisdom overall for everyone.
Yeah.
And I know he is mainly, his target audience is mainly guys, I assume?
I agree. I think it's mainly towards men. I think he has good intent towards men.
I think he has good intent. He's trying to protect men, and that's fine. That's fine. But a different perspective is always welcome, I think, in this world, and so that we have multiple perspectives to help us balance out our own and figure out where we stand.
Yeah.
So let's begin. Let's react to this video whilst I drink out of my Cinderella cup.
I completely forgot.
You have to take seriously the man who drinks out of a Cinderella cup. So let's begin, shall we?
I got my water, my sparkling water. Okay.
In brief, it is not possible for two people to like each other exactly the same amount. Therefore, in any relationship, one person must always like the other person more, and one person must always like the other person less. The person who likes the other person more is the adorer, and the person who likes the other less is the adored. Now, these two...
I disagree respectfully, because I think the whole purpose of pair bonding and falling in love is to negate this whole idea that one person likes the other more, because that is a power struggle, right? And I feel like that's the value of pair bonding. When you're pair bonded and you both fall in love with each other, you have a mutual, not only interest, but emotional attraction. And so that becomes like a big resource that you both pull from. Whereas if you have this constant dynamic of, oh, he loves me way more than I love him, then you kind of have a feeling like, okay, I'm safe, but at the same time, I'm compromising myself. I'm compromising what my heart really wants. Not only that, but it's like this push and pull of like, this guy's always going to be wondering like, how can I bring her closer to me? How can I make her more attracted to me? And she's always going to be like, well, I don't quite like you, but I like your money and I like your commitment.
He's basically taking the assumption that every single relationship is based on power struggle to some extent, which is, I think, entirely untrue. I do believe that a lot of relationships out there, especially long-term existing relationships, are based on power struggles.
Yes.
And from that point of view, yeah, I get it. We always say in a power struggle, there are no winners. You either win and the other person loses. It's a zero-sum game. And if there's a loser in the situation, then you both basically lose.
Yeah.
There are no winners.
Yeah.
You really want to build a relationship on the foundation of a win-win situation where if I win, you win. If you win, I win. And if one of us loses, we both lose.
Yeah.
Ultimately, that is the best type of relationship. That's when you can actually have full trust in the other person and full sense of intimacy too.
Yeah, because they care about whether you're losing or not.
That's right.
Yeah.
So they have your best interest at heart.
Yeah.
That is critical.
Yeah.
So in terms of power struggle, now if you're in a power struggle, this kind of advice it may have some context in a power struggle, but the whole point here is don't get stuck in a power struggle. That's where pair bonding is so important. It's so that, yeah, as you said, to negate this sense of, oh, I want to get more the longer end of the stick, and to be either the adored or the adorer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think this perspective comes, I think, especially from, in the case of men who hold this belief, it comes from men who have had poor experiences with women where they couldn't get the girl, kind of thing. They start to really internalize this belief that, and it's huge in the MGTOW community. In MGTOW community, a lot of men say, women only truly love their children. They're literally built to love their children. The man is built to love the woman. I may have expressed that differently to how these men express it, but the general idea is that men can't be loved by a woman the way that a woman's children are loved by her. Does that make sense? So
Well, I think they sort of more describe the flow of resources.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So the woman has to, the woman usually stays home with the kids, so her resources pass on to the kids, but she needs resources herself, and that comes from the man. And so, there's often not enough leftover attention or connection or love back to the man, to the husband, to the dad.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I guess,
especially if it's a power struggle too,
yeah.
Because then there's really no need. Everyone's out for themselves.
Yeah.
The kids are out to get attention from everyone and anyone. The mother usually spends the attention and energy on the children because that's what she does, right? She's at home with the kids, looking after the kids, and so who's out there looking out for the husband? Now, if it's a power struggle, then it's easy to neglect that because there are more important matters in the house.
Yeah.
The kids. So
yeah.
So again, if it's based on power struggle, you are going to struggle no matter what.
Yeah.
Whether you're a man or a woman, because at some point, as a man, if you're in that relationship as a power struggle, you're going to feel like everyone's just taking value from you without giving anything back. Eventually, that's going to build resentment, and you're going to have your midlife crisis. Go buy yourself a motorcycle and get some tattoos, and abandon the family.
Yeah.
And ultimately, that's bad for everyone.
Yeah.
Good for divorce lawyers.
Yeah, very good for divorce lawyers.
And on another note, in terms of, can you like each other at the same level? So when it is a power struggle, yeah, I get it. It doesn't always line up at all. But when it's a pair bond, and I guess it's so rare in this world to have people give advice based on, having the goal as a pair bond rather than how to manage a power struggle or how to get the better end of the stick, the longer end of the stick through a power struggle. So in terms of liking each other at the same, if there's a pair bond, what you tend to do, and there will be many moments where you'll feel like you like each other exactly the same. There will be many moments of that because that's what the pair bond is there for.
Yeah.
The progression of that sense of falling in love means that you're trying to be on each other's level at every stage along the way.
And mutual empathy.
Yeah. So
that comes with
you want to
pair
be at their level. You want to meet them where they're at. Of course, it's not a matter of, you're at each other's level all the time. It fluctuates a little bit, but you try and get to the next level.
Right.
Whereas in a power struggle, there's none of that. You don't want to be where they're at. You want to maintain your position of power, whatever that sense of power is, your side of the bargaining chip.
Yeah.
For a man, it could be money, status, it could be, some sort of control. And for the woman, it could be sex, it could be all sorts of things. So you hold on to your end of the bargaining chip and you don't let go. So it's not even about liking each other, it's about having that sense of control so that you maintain the power and you keep that power dynamic going.
Yeah, yeah.
And at any moment, if that power dynamic is disrupted by a third party, by an external force, then suddenly, everything goes haywire.
And the weak foundation of the relationship is exposed, essentially. Because you didn't start with resourcefulness, you started with power in mind.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's right. So if you do it, if you think of it from a mathematical perspective, I know, where did I just come out with mathematical perspective?
I know, right? Well, it kind of is like that. Like he's measuring like and...
Yeah, let's say I have a total value of 1, you have a total value of 1. And in a power struggle, I'm trying to take some value from you, you're trying to take some value from me. So overall, it's not just 1 plus 1 together, us as a team, but maybe like 1.7, 1.8, there's some value that's lost in that power struggle.
Okay, so instead of 1 + 1 = 2, it's 1 plus...
It's like...
0.7 plus 0.7.
Yeah, something like that. Because we take from each other just that tiny bit. So maybe we end up having a total sum of 1.4, 1.5, 1.6. Whereas if you're pair bonded and you have that extra resources, 1 + 1 becomes a 7.
Yeah.
It's a totally different level of resourcefulness that you get yourself into.
Yeah.
And you don't have to worry about, oh, am I getting the short end of the stick? You don't spend any extra energy on that.
Yeah.
Roles are gender neutral. Both men and women can be adorers, and both men and women can be the adored. And both roles come with their pros and cons. It's not actually better to be the adored and vice versa. However, in my opinion, it's generally better for women to be adorers, and I'm going to back up that statement in this episode. Now, it may sound strange, but most people, men and women, most people actually want to be adorers. Most people don't think they do, but they actually do. And this is because most people are looking for that feeling. They want to find their person, to feel excited about a relationship, to be in love, to feel lucky to be there. Most people want to feel these things in a relationship, but these emotions are not shared in the same degree between the two roles. These emotions are mostly felt by the adorer. Why? Because the adorer, and only the adorer, gets to be with the one they love. The adored, on the other hand, gets to be loved by the one they're with. It's not nearly as emotionally compelling of an experience. So,
just had a thought. This reminds me of cult dynamics, where the cult leader tends to be this person up here and everybody else looks up to them. It gives me that kind of dynamic.
Okay.
So you want, as a cult follower, I guess, you want the attention of the cult leader.
Okay.
It's that power dynamic.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. It's not exactly what I would call a real relationship, but I do agree that a lot of people fall into these situations. And there are people who are very vulnerable into falling into these culty kind of organizations. It doesn't have to be multi-level marketing like Amway. It could be like your local sporting club. It could have a very culty vibe.
Oh, so
right?
that makes sense.
So people
now,
fall into these roles, and some people love to be a follower and look up to their cult leader.
Yeah.
They're like, yes, I'm a part of this. This gives me purpose. I can follow their direction. So I give up my sense of responsibility for my own feelings, thoughts, and actions because they'll take care of me.
Yeah, you know what he said reminded me of though? I thought he was talking about the feeling of attraction. Is he not?
He is.
Yeah.
He is, but he's more talking about looking up to someone, adoring someone. It's the same dynamic.
When you fall in love with someone, do you look up to them though? Don't you kind of
You do, but it's a mutual thing. It's not. You don't look up to them like a cult leader. You look up to them as an individual, as a person, and that's reciprocated too.
Yeah.
What was that?
No, that's an interesting perspective. I didn't think about it like that. I just thought that he was assuming that attraction can, or that attraction always has to be one-sided. The balance of attraction always has to be one-sided, and that's why he says, understanding the balance of attraction. I think he doesn't believe in mutual attraction, or at least equal attraction.
Sounds like he's never had that pair bonding
That's
experience,
right.
which is
exactly
fine.
Right.
I feel bad for him, but that's fine. The reason why I brought up the cult thing is that is the typical dynamic of cults, where you look up to the leaders, and people love to be at the bottom. People love to be a part of something bigger than themselves, and they love that kind of fantasy, men or women.
Yeah.
And then there are personalities that love to be the cult leader, aka the narcissistic, especially grandiose narcissists.
Yes.
They love to be that cult leader, so they work their way up, and they love having that power and control over the people below them. So these personalities exist both in women and men, and I think there are.
That's what it's heading towards. You're saying. That's what it reminds you of.
Yeah. These power dynamics. People are attracted to those power dynamics, and it has nothing to do with. It doesn't really help them in a romantic relationship at all.
No.
If you want the emotional dimension of love in a relationship, you're really looking to be the adorer. Trust me, men want that emotional experience almost as much as women do. But here's the
No. I would say it was the opposite.
The other way around.
The other way around. But when you really zoom out, no, it's human. We all
human.
want that.
That's
we
right.
all want that. It's interesting, isn't it? Like,
It's a
I
human
appreciate
experience.
his perspective, and this is why it needs further discussion. Because
It is a human thing. There are plenty of women, plenty of men doing the same thing. They want to be the adorers. And then there are men and women who want to be the adored.
yeah,
I don't think either of them are necessarily healthy.
yeah,
Like, it's either, you giving up your own autonomy and thoughts and your own sense of well-being for someone else,
yeah.
as if you're sacrificing yourself.
Yeah. I feel like, I understand what he's saying from the perspective of we all secretly want to be the adored in terms of we want the feeling of abundance in our lives.
Did you say daughter or adorer?
Adorer, sorry. Did I say the wrong word?
You said adored.
Oh, God. Okay. We want the experience of being the adorer. I feel like because it makes us feel like we have abundance in our lives, like we feel fuller in our lives when we have something special to hold on to. Yeah.
I would consider this, and this is quite common. This is very, very common, especially when you haven't had a decent relationship in your life for a while, and you start to build these fantasies to fill the void of what's missing in your life, and a lot of the times you end up having these maladaptive dating strategies in your life in order to fulfill that void.
Well, there's a lot of people out there with the maladaptive dating
Yeah,
strategies.
I feel like this is the part of that whole group that I would call maladaptive strategies.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then you attract, the person who wants to be the adorer will attract absolute assholes, narcissists who abuse them and use them.
Yeah.
And then they keep going back to them because they want to fulfill that fantasy, that void inside of them.
And if this adored person makes grand promises,
Which they like to do.
yeah, about the future or about who they are, then like it amplifies that feeling of fantasy within us. It amplifies.
They know how to catch it because they want followers. They want people to go, wow, he's the one, she's the one. So they give you these little breadcrumbs. They give you these little promises to keep you around, to keep you absolutely hooked for years on end.
Yeah.
And what do narcissists want? They want supply. They want supply, ample supply,
Yeah.
fresh supply.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any supply is good supply.
Yeah, of course.
So you feed it right into that kind of pattern.
Yeah.
So again, maladaptive dating strategies.
And there's a lot of that around now. I think that the world is getting lonelier and people are having to cope with being single for long periods of time. And as you become single, and a lot of women and men live alone. And what we've noticed about, especially older people who have lived alone for a long, long time, for decades, is that they become completely uncalibrated to the world around them, the real world. If you've been in relationships and you've had those experiences, like at the school of hard knocks, so to speak, you start to be able to calibrate. It's a privilege in a way. You get to kind of learn and calibrate if you're learning. I mean, not everyone learns, but you have references to build upon. Whereas if you're single and lonely forever, you tend to rely on these fantasies. You get hooked, and so it's easy to get taken advantage of.
Absolutely.
You don't want that.
Absolutely.
the thing. In my experience, it's more important for a woman to have an emotional experience in a relationship than it is for a man.
I want to very quickly see, and I remember watching this now, and I thought, no, it's actually super important for men to have an emotional experience for the purpose of pair bonding, right? Because men are the ones who, by default, are a bit more detached, and it takes a bit more effort from the woman to draw them into a commitment and into relationship by default. And so, if anything, they need that emotional experience to form that commitment and pair bonding. That is not to say that women need it any less. I'm speaking not against him, but to show that the opposite can also be true. But the real truth is that we all need that emotional experience.
Absolutely.
That is the resource. So
Absolutely. I think obviously he talks to a lot of men.
Yeah.
And these men that he talks to and he makes videos for, they have a lot of experiences with entitled women, who've cheated them, stolen their resources, etc.,
Yeah.
etc. So he's got that lens, that filter in which everything comes through that filter.
That's kind of like why the woman is there. Perhaps you've heard it said that you can make a woman feel anything except bored. And there's some truth to that statement. A woman who hates you might not leave, but a woman who feels indifferently is probably looking for the door. So if it's more important for a woman to have an emotional experience in a relationship, then it's probably better that she be the adorer. Because if she's the adored, if she's up there on that pedestal, well, that might feel good for a while, but it will actually get boring pretty quickly. Being on a pedestal ain't all it's cracked up to be. And a bored woman makes for an unsustainable relationship. Men, this is what you have to understand.
What makes a woman bored in a relationship?
What makes a woman bored in a relationship?
A boring man?
Obviously a boring man. And I think, going back to a concept that he put forth in one of his other videos, he said, as a man, you want to be anything but wallpaper or something. And I agree with that in a way, because as I assume it, wallpaper is the thing you walk past and don't notice. And as a man, it's better that you take the risk to express yourself. And I really like this quote by Jim Carrey, of all people, risk being seen in all of your glory. And I think it's true for men and women. But if a man is always suppressing parts of himself, a woman's going to get bored. If a man is incapable of seeing the truth, she's going to get bored. If he's incapable of taking responsibility, she's going to get bored.
Yeah, and the same can be said the other way around. If a woman was boring, then he'd be bored out of his mind. It's the same thing. It's human. It's, it doesn't matter if it's a man or a woman. If you're bored, then it's a bad thing in a relationship.
Yeah.
You don't be boring.
I think, he's assuming, let's again, assume that he's spoken to a lot of men, as you said, and it's probably true. And a lot of men probably have that experience that women get bored easily. They need variety. I've had men say that to me. They say women need more variety than men do. And I think in certain contexts, maybe there's truth to that. But overall, it's easy for any of us. It's just as easy for a man to get bored as it is for a woman.
Sure, women have their cycles, so they may desire different things, different feelings throughout the different parts of the cycle, whereas men don't have that. But that doesn't have anything to do with whether I think women have a greater need for variety.
Yeah, I think it's just some men who pander to women to gain their approval. That just feels ugh. And that gets boring really quickly because there's nothing in him. There's no substance.
You're not being authentic. You're not, you don't have your own ideas, your own drive, your own desire to do anything for yourself, And
I think it's important, if there's any men watching, as a man, to teach a woman to love you as you are. Not teach as in force her to, but pierce her open with your own self-expression and vulnerability and see if she can accept that. If she can't, then maybe you want to reconsider the relationship. That's up to you. That's your choice. But I think in general, women have to learn to appreciate and love men more as they are. Because I think that, and this is probably the whole reason why there are movies like James Bond and, what's that one called? Keanu Reeves.
John Wick.
Men who seem so invincible, and so they don't make mistakes. It gives this impression of a superhuman man that doesn't make mistakes, right? But that's
It's a power fantasy.
Yeah, and any skillful man has made way more mistakes than an unskillful man ever could dream of making, right? So yeah, going back to what I was saying, I think it's really important as a man to teach a woman or lead a woman to towards loving you as an authentic human being. And I say that because I know there's a lot of women who are incapable of loving a man as he is. And so there's a lot of men trying to mold themselves around women, being the nice guy or dressing perfectly, or, they're afraid to be a unique soul. I mean, but if you look at some of the most famous guys, you'll see that they are unique. They're quirky almost. Look at Johnny Depp. He's not your Brad Pitt. He's a left of center kind of character, and I think he considers himself an introvert even. So,
Seems like it.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you just have to understand yourself, understand the opposite sex. That's what you have to do in order to connect at a deeper level. Again, you don't want your relationship to be based on a power struggle, where the more you get, the less your lover, your partner gets. Nothing good comes out of that.
Two people in a relationship cannot occupy the same place. And so when a man insists on being the adorer, he kind of robs the woman of the opportunity of being the adorer, which isn't really doing any one of them any favors.
So yeah, if you're in pair bond, you adore each other.
Yeah.
Think about all the love stories, all the movies portraying romantic love. that sense of falling in love, anyone watching the screen would tell you they both adore each other.
Yeah.
It's not like one person obviously adores more than the other.
Yeah.
So that's the pair bonding experience. And what we're talking about here is basically a power struggle.
Yeah.
And there is no good outcome out of a power struggle.
No, there isn't. I think look into your own life and have a think about all the couples that you look up to, if there are any, and have a think about, is there a power disparity? Is there a lack of a balance in attraction? Or can you clearly tell that they both adore and love each other?
It's absolutely possible.
That's how it is. You know, in my life, I can think of one couple that stands out. And I've always looked up to them ever since I was a little girl because it was obvious. They had this pure love and adoration. It's adoration for each other. And I would never expect them to ever get divorced. Like that relationship is built to last. And of course, they're still together. I don't know how long it's been, 30 years probably, but it comes through in their actions and you can tell they love each other equally. Of course, the expressions of love may not always be the same or be equal because we are, separate organisms. We're separate humans at the end of the day going through our own things, let alone being a man and a woman. But at the heart of it, you can tell they love each other the same.
Okay. Continue?
Mm-hmm.
And this is because you can't have two adorers, and you can't have two adorers because of the balance of attraction, which maintains that two people cannot like each other exactly the same amount. Insisting on being the adorer forces the woman to be the adored, which robs her of the lion's share of emotionality in the relationship. Make sense? Now, there's another important reason why it's better for women to be adorers, and this reason has to do with hypergamy, which we have now talked about a few times on this channel. Hypergamy is the tendency of women to select up and across, which is why they tend to mate and date men who are older, taller, stronger, wealthier, and higher status, for instance. This means, literally and figuratively, a woman wants to look up to her man. If a man insists on being the adorer, then he's looking up at her, which means that she is looking down at him.
Okay, can we just refer to the Notebook?
We can.
Isn't that the perfect example? Because Ali is from the higher status family, right? And Noah
Was poor.
is poor. What's going on there, right? I know, it's just a film, but the film was based on a book. And the book, if you've heard or learned anything about the author, Nicholas Sparks, is based on a true story. It's based on his relationship that he observed with, I think it was his grandparents, So he based it off real life.
Yeah. And the reason why we enjoy movies is because we can relate to them.
Yeah.
So,
they're based in reality. They're concepts and emotions based in reality.
Yeah, of course, women, we have to acknowledge that, there is an element of hypergamy that exists, especially on a population level, not pointing anyone out. That strategy exists to serve women. And thank God it's there for their survival, for their ability to provide for the next generation. However, there is when you do pair bond, that goes out the window because, we all choose our own dating strategies, our reproductive strategies. And sometimes when we take one path, we burn the bridges and we ignore all the other strategies. So you got to really think about what strategy you want to take. And for some women, their strategy is to go to the biggest, baddest, maximum security jail and find the freshest new recruit and write him love letters and send him marriage proposals. Like apparently Ted Bundy had a few.
Yeah, he had a lot of admirers.
A lot of marriage proposals from women too.
And look at Wade, what's his name?
Wilson.
Wade Wilson.
So that is what I would call perhaps a maladaptive dating strategy.
Yes.
There was a lady there was a correction officer, a prison guard that helped an inmate escape. A female guard helped a male prisoner escape because she was in love with him, and then he just killed her afterwards.
Yeah.
So it's a very maladaptive strategy, but some of us take on board those strategies because we believe that nothing else is going to work for us. But you don't have to take on those strategies. There are other strategies. You may not have grown up with any decent role model, so you don't know whether those strategies will work for you or not. Maybe you got bullied at school. Maybe you didn't have the right positive social interactions to reinforce certain strategies. But I can promise you, they're there. You can use them. You just have to get familiar with them, and know that these maladaptive strategies, they may pay off in the short term, but in the long run, they almost always run into trouble, and much bigger trouble than you can anticipate.
Yeah, that's true.
And that is definitely not a sustainable relationship. Men, you don't.
Is he in a relationship?
I don't know.
I'm not sure. Yeah, so how can a single person tell you what is going to help you with a sustainable relationship? What's going to help build a sustainable relationship?
How can someone who's seemingly never had the experience of falling in love mutually give you advice that's based in reality? I think his advice is just based on the experience that a lot of people have, where they navigate the dating world without the experience of having emotional attraction. And going off something else that you were saying, I think a lot of people develop maladaptive dating strategies and these power struggles because they themselves either don't have the skills to build emotional attraction, or maybe it's just so rare for people to mutually fall in love. And they find that it's taking too long to find the right person, that a shorter term strategy is what they employ. And with shorter term strategies, you need to fall back onto power struggles more.
Yeah, it's more about certainty and significance. Yeah. Certainty and significance, I guess, yeah, if you've never seen someone fall in love, never had that experience yourself as maybe a child growing up, a teenager growing up, then you go, okay, maybe that's not quite real, it doesn't exist. It's just like, Notebook, that's a terrible movie. You don't relate to these movies. Yeah. And eventually get to a point where you don't want to be vulnerable enough with other people that you always just chase after certainty and significance. If those are your primary needs, if you go into the world leading with those needs, then you will attract, you will build, you will actually actively cultivate power struggles.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're choosing that. And that is your strategy going forward.
Yeah.
Subconsciously or consciously.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Allow a woman to look up to you. You don't even give her the chance if you're looking up at her. I can hear some wheels turning in some of my male audience's heads right about now. And that's good. It's good that you're thinking about this. And this is what I'd like you to consider, gentlemen. I get that you want to be the adorer. She's gorgeous, and it feels amazing to be with the woman you love. I get it. But here's the thing. If you insist on having that experience, you are robbing her of the opportunity of having that experience because you can't both be adorers, my dude. So what I'd like you to...
So why can't a man adore and look up to a woman's radiance, and a woman adore and look up to a masculine man's direction?
It feels like it's one of those power struggles where, like, let's take it to the extreme. Okay, only one person in the relationship can be the abuser and the other one has to be the abusee. So it's either you slap me or I slap you, but you can't have both. So someone has to abuse the other one. It feels that way.
Does it feel that way? I don't get abuse vibes. I don't get abuse vibes.
I get it, but that's, again, a power struggle.
Yeah.
When we talk about abuse, it's a power struggle.
Yeah.
So it's the same kind of dynamics, but obviously in a different context.
The thing, I kind of see where you're going with that, because the image I have in my head when he describes this is a man who is rather not just void of feelings for her, for the woman he's with, but rather detached and annoyed by her. Why wouldn't you be? If someone's always adoring you, looking up to you, aren't they always trying to take more than you're willing to give or than you're able to give? Like, aren't they always value extracting? That's the image I get. I could be wrong.
It's possible. Yeah. At the end of the day, these men are trying to feel a certain feeling, certain fantasy, and there's nothing wrong with that. Except if they're going into it, it's all about themselves, then yeah, they're gonna, get themselves into all sorts of power struggles, all sorts of issues. You hear stories all the time. We're in Thailand right now, and lots of older men, gentlemen, fly into the country, find themselves a wife, and they adore their wife, their 20, 30-year-old wives. But there's obviously, it's built on a power struggle, not on mutual attraction.
Is it?
Yeah.
Why?
Because they're the guys coming from overseas. They're the passport bros. They're the ones with money or, money mostly.
Yeah.
And so women want some of that value.
Yeah.
And so it's everything, they're not really attracted to these men per se.
Yeah.
They just know the value at the end of the day.
Yeah. I want to also give some credit though to passport bros, because not all of them fall into that.
No.
You know, I know some younger. There's someone that I follow on YouTube. He gives advice on, you know, like to Thailand. Like, he's a travel advice. Anyway, he's a younger guy, and I don't think he went into it with power struggles in mind. I think some passport bros are really just looking to increase their chances of finding a feminine, submissive, playful wife, right? But then, of course, there are a lot, especially the older generation, who are what a lot of women, Western women, would call losers, who come to these countries.
Yeah.
I think those are the ones you're
Yeah,
referring
absolutely.
to. Yeah.
And they typically, they get married really quickly, they find someone, and obviously women here, they're smart, they know, okay, how much wealth, you know, you're a foreigner, okay, you get married, within 5 years, they get divorced, you know, you lose, as a man, you lose a lot of everything, and you have to start again.
Yeah.
So
Some men really get taken for everything they have. You know,
They
I've
do.
heard men with Chinese wives, they use them for the money, they take
Yep.
their money. The man's entire family knew what was going on. They could tell, but he couldn't, because he's in the fantasy mode. And next minute, she's pregnant with a child. They have the kid, then she's pregnant with another one, but she's then sending all his money back home. And eventually she leaves with the kids,
Yeah.
and he doesn't
doesn't have anything.
any power anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
How ironic.
Yeah, like people here in Thailand, if a man or woman, if a foreign man divorces a Thai wife, he's got like 7 days to leave the country.
Oh, okay, yeah. Wow.
That's it. And of course, as a foreigner, you can't own anything, so
Yeah.
so the wife takes the house.
Yeah, okay. Oh,
So
be careful what you get yourself into. Be
Yeah.
careful what you wish for. There was a Goosebumps book with that title.
Yeah.
Be careful what you wish for.
and so you can't build a relationship, a true relationship, on power struggles. You just can't.
Yeah.
There's way too much risk for both parties, and it's not a strong foundation. Anyone else comes in, or any other external forces, and suddenly you're building a castle on sand. You're building a castle on sand.
To consider is making a voluntary sacrifice to be the adored. I know that sounds weird, but it's a sacrifice to be the adored because almost everyone wants to be the adorer. It's a sacrifice to be the adored, to give the opportunity, to give up the opportunity of being with the one that you love. And you're willing to do that, to give the woman that opportunity, which is no small thing, because you know how good it can feel. Does that make sense? What do you think? Do you think it's better for women to be adorers? Let me know in the comments below. And if you've gotten this far, you might as well like this episode. And
No, I don't think it's better for women to be adorers. I think it's best to aim for a pair bond and lots of emotional attraction and become the kind of person who has the skills to build emotional attraction. I know women tend to think, well, that's the man's job. He should lead the relationship. He's the one who has skills. I'm the one who should be relaxing and being pain-free and enjoying my life so I can be feminine. But no, there's nothing wrong with a woman having a deep sense of playfulness. That's life. That's being alive.
Yeah, and that's vulnerable too.
Yes, it's very vulnerable.
That vulnerability gives you the ability to go out there and deeply connect with other human beings. It doesn't have to be your chosen man. It could be anyone.
Children.
Yeah, children, exactly.
Your own children, if you have them.
Exactly. They love that sense of playfulness.
Yeah.
They thrive off of it, and also teaches them how to be playful in their own lives, in their own relationships for the future.
Yeah.
So, you can be both adorers and be both adored.
Yeah. I think sorry to interrupt, playfulness comes from love. Essentially, it comes from love. That's my experience.
Okay.
It's an expression of love.
Yeah,
It's a
it
way
is.
to love someone.
Yeah.
So why can't women have the skill of playfulness?
Well, I guess those women who want to be, like he should be chasing me, he should be, they're trying to play that,
Power struggle game.
power struggle game as the adored.
Yeah. Yeah. And there are plenty of women out there. I've been doing this for 15 years, and there are plenty of women out there who have said over the years, the smartest thing is to choose a man who loves you more than you love him. And, even my mother said that. And I wrote an article about that. It's actually a very popular article back years and years ago. It was, is it better for a man to love you more than you love him or something? I was surprised at how many women could understand my contention that, no, you should love each other mutually. I think...
Well, it's a dangerous game. So
Yeah.
now, let's say if the man loves the woman more than the woman loves him, she's not going to respect him. She's going to,
Yeah.
that relationship is going to just disintegrate
Yeah.
in no time.
Yeah.
Unless she has control of some sort of finances, so she has a large bargaining chip, so she stays until it's time to check out.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's not good for the man.
No.
That's not good for the kids either.
Yeah.
So you can be both.
Yeah.
And to do that, you have to be able to form that pair bond, to, have some level of emotional attraction, emotional connection.
Yeah, that's true.
And I guess that's also why, if you're able to go down that path of pair bonding, that will give you so much more resourcefulness, so much more confidence, so much more abundance, sense of abundance, emotional abundance, physical, spiritual abundance, that you look at every other option, you go, no, it doesn't even, it pales in comparison.
Yeah, even the best looking guy or the best looking woman, is not enough if you don't have a pair bond with them, if you don't have mutual emotional attraction.
That's right. It doesn't matter how good looking or how rich or how high status they are. You are going to get sick of them at some point. It doesn't matter if it's a man getting sick of a woman or a woman getting sick of a man. There's plenty of men who get absolutely sick of their 10 out of 10 girlfriends, etc. If they're boring, absolutely. If there's nothing more to them.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
But whereas a pair bond, that memory lasts forever.
Yes, that's right. It's possible for two people to adore each other exactly the same. Of course, it may, as we said, it may be different on certain days in terms of expression. But at the heart of it, you love each other just as much. And the ideal situation is that you'd both die for each other. You both love each other that much. That's a good feeling to have for both people, to love someone that much. Because then those resources become an excess for when you raise children, if you raise children. Because raising children, anyone who's had to raise a child properly knows that's true. They are a resource suck. And you can't rely on a relationship or a marriage that was born out of power struggles to carry you through the process of raising a young child.
Yeah, just takes too much. Hope that makes sense. So if you want to take that journey and learn some skills around pair bonding, emotional attraction, emotional connection, or this idea of playfulness that we talk about a lot, we'll put some links down below in the description where you can get started on this journey, because ultimately I don't want you to keep using maladaptive dating strategies or reproductive strategies. I guess we can call them reproductive strategies.
Yeah, you can call them.
So because ultimately they may give you short-term gains but long-term loss.
Yes.
Massive loss.
Yeah.
So find the best strategy, the most optimal strategy. And I understand sometimes it takes a bit of work. Sometimes it takes a bit of getting outside your comfort zone because you've done a certain thing for so long. But ultimately, we all want strong, healthy relationships around us.
Yeah.
I think it's so important for all of us humans. And there's more of you to give to the rest of the world.
Exactly.
If you had those stronger relationships. So please click the links below if you really, truly want to take on this journey and be rid of all the maladaptive strategies that you have been using.
Yeah, all the TikTok and Facebook advice that may be hurting your chances of finding real love with a man who loves you back just as much.
Yeah, because the more you go into power struggle, the more you're going to reject the men who actually want to connect with you and actually turn them into people who are looking for power struggles as well.
Yeah.
So you can find more of those power struggles and you can dig yourself a deeper and deeper hole.
Yes.
All right.
All right, thank you for
That's all for us.
See you in the next one. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Wait, before you go, imagine 3 magical words so powerful that it got my coaching client's boyfriend to propose to her within 7 days. Yup, it's all in this book. Click the link on the screen to learn more.